Pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. All we have on there is the minutes from our last meeting.
I shall move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. First up, we have Tom Coleman, General Manager of Regional Water, and update on the water project on Pioneer Trail.
Good
Tom,
morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Two things, actually. So where we are on Pioneer Trail, we now have a draft agreement that we've looked at from Council Bluffs, and we're pretty comfortable with. We gave them two minor requests for adjustment that Doug and his folks are looking at now. We also have draft water agreements with both developers. We had meetings on the 12th and 13th of April with the development teams, Jim Hughes Real Estate and Heartland Properties. We've talked through everything there. We've got agreement on exactly what the designs have to be inside and how things are going to run out. Now that's just a draft on how much money they're going to put up front versus at the end of the substantial completion of the pipeline. So we should have, I was just sharing with Mitch, I think by the end of this month, we should have signed agreements with all three parties, Council Bluffs as the water provider and the two developers as far as the Pioneer Trail project. With that said, we're at the point now where we're looking at project cost, and as you guys know, when we initially started this, I think it's been 2 years now, when we first started talking about a Pioneer Trail project in which we were running a line up from Glenwood municipal utility. It was going to be a total of $1.2 million. Glenwood and Regional Water were not able to come to an agreement on the contract for water service, and we ended up going with Council Bluffs. The difference being it now more than doubles the amount of pipeline that's actually in Pot County rather than in Mills County. And unfortunately, the cost went from $1.2 million project to a $3.2 million project. So with that in mind, at this point, I feel comfortable in asking the board to consider where we are in terms of the $300,000 promissory note that we have signed with you all. And I would ask you to consider looking at an increase in the amount of money that the county would be willing to commit, since the entire pipeline's now in Pot County and will be serving Pottawatomie County. I can do simple math, and I know that y'all did $300,000 for a $1.2 million project. If I do the math, a $3.2 million project would be $800,000. But I am not so naive as to think that it's that simple. So at this point, I don't know where. I'm looking for a little bit of assistance in figuring out what the factors are that would lead to a change in that amount.
We're moving forward regardless, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's going to be done.
I think right the mid to late June, the 1st of July, I think we're going to have another capital plan discussion, and we'll be able to take a look at. This is just my personal opinion, where we're at on our capital plan. We'll also have, hopefully, maybe some grant requests from our smaller towns on the projects that they have came up with as far as ARPA funds. I think it can give us a little bit better idea of what funds we have available and what we can do.
Well, there's potential for infrastructure dollars too from the state as well, totally separate pot of money that we may be able to look at as well, so.
Yeah, are there grants that you can request from?
We are in that process now. We've got, the challenge is the major granting source in Iowa West, this project, because of the route that is going, there are no communities along that route that are actually below the LMI I mean, this is a fairly prosperous area there in Meadowview Parkway and Pioneer Trail, and these houses are gonna be basically $500,000 houses. So the chance of someone at or below the LMI buying a $500,000 house is slim to none.
Is that a requirement for any grant?
For the ones that we typically use, that we are, and the reason we do that is because apparently, and is my first time doing it, but historically, they are the quickest turnaround. If you've got something that's at or below the LMI, they are a lot faster in their evaluation process and determination of whether or not they will give you a grant or a combination. RD does combination loans and grants. We're actually working with them on the Minden Pipeline project, which is also entirely in Pot County. So, and that's a new one that I wanted to give you an introduction to today as well. But that being the case, I am looking for smart people to talk to. I had a sit down with Iowa West, but as you all may know, as a 504, we can't go directly to them for a loan. We have to go through a municipal government entity such as either you guys as Pot County or one of the cities, municipalities that would be participating or benefiting from the line.
Mitch, off the top of your head, I certainly don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know of any requirements for the infrastructure grant?
No, nothing that I would.
They're not gonna put a LMI on that. This is more like big picture infrastructure, so everything.
Are all the state and federal dollars restricted to low and moderate income?
No, not all of them.
Okay, well, I mean,
No, I mean, like what he's talking about, absolutely. I mean, unless you can get Dumfries to go reincorporate it again or something, you might be able to figure it out, but I think there's only one house there.
There's a church.
Well, yeah, I guess you could, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess the bottom line with this is that if we can wait till that June, July timeframe when we do have our capital discussions again, that will allow us to see if there are, I think there's gonna be a lot more grant opportunities out there. I mean, this includes things beyond just water, sewer. I mean, they're talking fiber, roads. I mean, there's a lot more to it that we may be able to look at doing like a package thing or something. And, cause that, when you're looking at our maps and our pictures, I mean, 240th Street is kind of the backstop of where we see a lot of our development around, at least within right outside the 2 mile Council Bluffs anyway. And so I think there'll be some opportunity that we can look at it. So, I mean, I told you this before that, when you come back to us, if there is big things like this that we need to know about, and, we'll certainly look at it and see if there are opportunities for us to take advantage of help. Yeah, thanks. So are you gonna tell us about Minden next? Is that
Yes,
okay.
so as you all know, we've been doing a vulnerability assessment on our network and determined that the shallow well field issue is it's putting too much risk to have all our eggs in one basket as far as water source. Everything we're being told is that it's likely not gonna get better, at least for the next 10 years. So we've entered an preliminary agreement with Council Bluffs Waterworks to provide water to us on a 12-inch line coming out of the Sue Johnson Tower on the northeast corner of Council Bluffs and running it up to and connecting into our 8-inch pipeline at the Minden Town connection. That's gonna basically, and phase 1 is gonna give us 400,000 gallons a day of water. Part of that's going to Harlan, who's already asked to be part of this project, the city of Harlan. About 100,000 gallons of that a day will go to Harlan. The other 300,000 will feed the western half of our network. Phase 2 of the project is actually going to increase the amount of water that we're able to draw from Council Bluffs Waterworks to roughly 1.4 million gallons a day capacity. And in that phase, we actually have a number of municipalities who have expressed an interest in possibly benefiting in an increased water request from them. And that's all along, basically heading east along the I-80 corridor and north of that in Shelby County and Audubon.
Tom, what's your route for going out to Minden?
That's what we emailed the route to Matt. I did not know if he had forwarded that to the board.
Yeah.
Basically, it runs east along Highway 6 from the Sue Johnson Tower and then turns north. I'd say it's about 2.5 miles west of, oh my gosh. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't wanna
No,
guess,
I
but
understand.
we did email it to Matt, and I can, ask him to share that with the board, so you guys have that.
I
But,
thought it ran north on like L66.
That sounds familiar, but again, I don't wanna misspeak. I know the engineers we did the hydraulic study to figure out
That runs right into Minden.
eventually it's gonna go, but I don't believe it's just a straight east and then north. I believe there is a little bit of a
Yeah.
zig at one point on the network, but
So along that route, will people potentially be able to hook onto that line if
Yes.
they want?
yes. The initial review that we've done shows a potential of approximately 100 total connections, and historically, we'll get about 30% in the initial. So we were, right now, for funding request purposes, we've gone to RD and requested a funding application, which they're in the process now of doing. The total cost of the project's gonna be $11.2 million for phase one, and that is, we anticipate 30 connections that'll be initially along that route if we get the 30%.
So, and I can't remember where I read it or saw it, but the potential to eliminate whatever 200 wells, does that have any bearing on whether you can get some low interest loans or grant money or?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we've been working with RD on. Typically, we get it, they have much lower rates because so many of the potential customers along that line are below the LMI. We have a really good shot at a decent funding package here. And then the goal is that we end up with a very small residual that is left, and that would be where we would look for other. We've got a connection fee contract in draft form with Harlan right now based on their interest in an initial 100,000 gallons a day, and possibly they want to be capable of basically putting their entire system on Council Bluffs water if they have, because they are having the similar struggles we are with their shallow wells.
With their water table dropping out that way, do you think you'll get more than 30% along the line?
And that's, we tried to be conservative in our estimate. My personal opinion is, with the issues that a lot of these folks have had the last 2 years on their wells and the anticipation of it being another drought this summer, that we could very easily have a whole bunch of folks
Okay.
over that who say, hey, we'd like, if nothing else, I'll take the water for the house and I'll use my wells for my yard or whatever kind of thing. It's possible it could be way higher than 30%.
How close do you come to Hancock?
Right now, as it stands on our network, we're probably 4 or 5 miles from them at our closest point.
Okay. It seemed like the water came in from the west and didn't cross the river.
Yeah, so because of the way the network was built over the last 50 years, we actually have this huge loop. We are actually pushing the water north, then east, then we bring it back down and around, and it's not actually a complete loop. So one of the things that I've put on our infrastructure plan for the next 5 years is we need to complete the loop and cover that, because we're wasting a lot of water at the end that's stagnant, and it's also a lot harder to get the pressures to stay where they need to be at the end of that loop. So we need to connect that all back up.
Oakland Foods uses a lot of water,
Yes,
puts a strain on Oakland.
yes. Well, and we've had an initial discussion with Oakland. Right now, their water supply is okay. Their big thing is they don't know, they're not real interested in any kind of a significant upfront monetary commitment, which is our typical contract, since it's hard for me to sit there and pull $2.5 million for an initial start of a project. I need an injection of cash up front for, like we did. We took a risk and bought close to $500,000 worth of pipe for the Pioneer Trail project, and it ended up being a really great decision, because we're gonna have that pipe here later this summer. Before we even have the contracts awarded to start construction, we'll have pipe on the ground waiting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Keep us apprised, we will, keep you up to date too, as we move further along in our capital plan discussions.
Okay, and I'll be prepared to give you whatever, I can probably go into greater depth in our planning cycle with regards to when you get into your capital meetings in June, July timeframe. I can be able to provide you some more fidelity, so it gives you a better basis for any kind of decision that you might make and how much you will or won't participate. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Tom? Hey, Tom, thanks for the update.
Yeah, you appreciate it.
Next up, we have Lee Voss, Treasurer, update on gaming revenue and local option sales tax. I asked Lee to provide us the last 6 to 8 months of revenue that the county took in from both gaming and local option sales tax. You know, we're still 6 months away from our budget discussions. This is gonna give us an idea of where we're at today, and then in December, we'll take another look at it and see where we're at with that. And Lee, do you want to go over these numbers with us?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no, sure. So we get a letter from the revenue in August of each year that says what they are gonna disperse to us from Iowa Department of Revenue. So last year, in '21, we received a letter saying what they were gonna disperse to us, you can see on the local option tax. Then we got a letter in September, which lowered our amounts. So what we were originally going to get, according to what they said, we went down from September to December, we went down about $14,000.
Each month.
Right. And then we went down, say, from March until June, we went down about 11,000. So on the spreadsheet, you can see, you know, what we received and what was dispersed out amongst the entities. And then what our grand total is up to date for our April disbursement.
So if you look at January of '22, on property tax relief on the 15%, we were at 55,275. February, March, and April we're down to 46,958. So that's about a $10,000 drop.
Right.
Is that an indication that people are spending?
Correct.
That property tax relief, if you guys remember, we use that in order to lower the levy through the property tax relief. I don't remember what we budgeted last year, but it was probably close to 500,000, close to. Now the roads, soil and water, county conservation, you know, we don't have anything to do with that. That goes to them and they have their own budget for that. It's just kind of information only numbers for the board to take a look at and get ready for our next budget session. Again, I'll ask Lee if she'll provide this information to us in December as well, so we can kind of use a comparison between what happened through April of this year, and then we'll have it in December, and we'll be able to see kind of where we're tracking.
And I think I want to give you, like in August, when we get that letter from them, you know, and then hopefully we won't get an adjustment like we did.
When do we get the true up from them?
The what? The letter from them saying what we're going to get? It usually comes the second week of August.
We get a true up from them too, don't we,
I don't know any.
Mr. Hauser?
Well, it seems like in November, we used to
We
get,
get,
we would get a kind of an even up
hang
thing
on.
at the end of the year.
We get a makeup in November.
Okay, that's when it is?
That's when it is, November, yeah.
Okay.
Is that a separate
Yes,
deal? So these two in November, is that the ones that?
right,
are
right,
showing
you'll
up
see
there?
that in,
Or is that a month?
we kinda added them together, we didn't separate them, so.
Okay.
So the dollars you get throughout the first part of the year is just an estimate from the DOR. And
Correct.
they think this is what you're gonna.
Right,
Yeah.
yes,
So they've just lowered their estimate.
estimate, right.
Yeah.
And these are the actual dollars that we did get.
So what was, do you have the estimate then, what it was?
The last estimate that we received, well, is about, we're close, I mean, say in November, like I have 368 is what they said, but we only have 358. But then in December, it said we were gonna get 368, 479, but we got 368, 506, so we were up. But then when we got in, say, February, we got 313,053. They estimated we'd get 313,030. So they're about right on,
Yeah, pretty close.
about what they said.
Was there some legislation this year that was gonna affect our local?
Yeah, it did pass this year. It was to try to, capture all the internet sales, penny that's not getting caught. Then people are not paying if they don't have a brick and mortar store in Iowa. They wanna do it statewide.
Thank you.
That was gonna basically fill that I will portion.
Oh, yeah.
Take down the sales tax.
Okay, any other questions for Lee on the local option sales
No,
tax
I'm
report?
good.
Thanks.
Thanks for bringing that.
As we move to the next one, which is Harris, you can see in July, we received about 38,000 from Harris. And in April of this year, we received 24. The July, revenue was the highest for this time period. As you can see, we're in the, usually in the low to mid 20s for revenues for Harris. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Lee? Okay.
They just send us a check and then they send us a report.
Is our numbers, gamblers way down? No?
Not really.
Okay.
This actually comes from them and not the state then, I take it? huh?
Yes.
Okay.
And the next sheet after that is Ameristar. Quite a difference. Ameristar in July is,
America does like monthly, you know, these are more or less of a week. So these are month. Ameristar only pays once a month. And we don't get like any of that, what's that, online betting or the.
Right.
We never see that anywhere. And I don't know if you would, you know, that sports betting, we don't have a line or anything for that. So we must not get any.
State's collecting it.
That's what I thought. And Heather and I went through all the reports and everything, and so I thought, how come we don't get a chunk of that? But,
Howell West doesn't get it either.
yeah, so, yeah, the state gets all of that, so that's nothing.
And then my understanding is they're distributing a portion of that back to counties that don't have.
Casino.
So in July of 21, from Ameristar, we received 75,000 approximately. And April of this year,
Yeah,
94. So, while it fluctuates a little bit from 74 to 82, 79 to 94, really isn't a lot of variation in there. I think that everything's gonna be on target with at least Ameristar. Now Bluffs Run, pari-mutuel wagering, that's for,
Like to go to other places?
horse racing, somewhere
Right,
else.
right. That's not very good. So we need to build a horse racing facility. Off the record.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been inevitable. I mean, since I've been on the board, we've talked about this happening at some point, you know, and I think we're just starting to see the beginning of it, starting to slowly fade away. I mean, I think there'll always be something, but I don't know that it's gonna be, you know, which is why I think it's great that this board we've never counted on that money. It's never been something that we're like, we have to have this to function, which has been, I think, smart budgeting on our part, because,
I do too.
you know, with these losses at the end of the year, if we were sitting there relying on that money for operating expense, it would be bad news, so. I think we enjoy it while we have it and try to do the best we can to leverage those dollars into projects and things that'll make investments for us in the future. I mean, looking at local option sales tax even, I mean, what this is really telling me is that we need to figure out a way to get growth and get quick, which is like working with people like Tom and those folks. Get water ran to places, get areas where we can actually get more development.
Is this, pari-mutuel, has that been a long time there? No, that's newer.
That's newer.
Okay.
Yes. Cause
I'm
we
not a
never,
casino guy, so I don't.
yeah, I'm not either. I just look at how many slots,
Yeah.
penny slots people pay to, you know.
Did we ever, you know, when they built that other one over to Carter Lake, that's not part of this kind of network, I mean, are they?
Is that not a,
No.
Well, I know it's not
We
part of
don't
it.
get any.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I'm aware. What I'm trying to say is, did we notice any significant decreases in revenues from that happening when they built that?
It's about the same that we've always got.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know, during the pandemic or whatever, you could see, you know, it went down and,
Well, sure.
but it's starting to go back up, you can tell.
And then that last one from Horseshoe, if you look at that top one, Leah, from July, is that
Yes.
solely for July or is that June?
No, that's all of July. No, I think, yeah, that was July, June and July.
Okay.
wow,
So that's staying relatively on target too.
Yeah. Just need to have good concert seasons over there, you know, keep things moving.
So this is 8 months of gaming revenue. 871 and 300, 12. We're about 2 million.
That'd be, which one are you looking at?
I'm just looking at gaming.
The last one?
I'm adding them all up.
Oh, wow, because that'd be 10 months here,
we still got 2 more.
this last.
Hey, June.
Well, this is your fiscal period and you got 2 more to go.
They,
For your fiscal year.
So 10, after 10 months, we're at 2 million, and that's what we budgeted. So we should be on target to.
Good.
I mean, it says good.
Okay.
Lee, thanks for that update.
No problem.
It's really important.
It was so hard.
We'll be able to take another. We'll be able to take another look at this in December when we get ready. Just kind of giving us some kind of an idea where we're at.
You want that in like August, that we get that letter and I'll just send you in email? Is that,
Yeah.
when we get that award letter is what I call it?
That'll work.
Okay,
That comes from the revenue estimating people.
right.
Okay. Any questions
Thanks,
for
Lee.
Lee on this? Hey, Lee, thank you very much for that information update. Appreciate it. Next up, Janet Lemrick, Director of Human Resources. Discussion decision to approve an updated job description and exemption status for the Natural Resource Specialist position. Jenna, you're up.
Good morning. So Mark and I talked about this position as we were reviewing job descriptions and really felt that this does meet the criteria for the Department of Labor's exemption testing. This is a leadership position. They are able to hire, fire, discipline. They make over the salary basis of the Department of Labor requests. And I mean, this isn't an 8 to 5 position. You know, this position is when they're needed, weekends, days, evenings. So it makes sense for this position to be moved to exempt. Last summer, we had changed a couple other positions, moved them to exempt, and we're just continuing to look at them as we go and make recommendations.
Anybody have any questions for Jenna on this?
No. Pretty cut and dry, I think.
It's,
I think it is.
it's an existing person already, right?
Yes. Yep. And Mark and Chad are aware of this change.
Has this been discussed at the Conservation Board?
Mark has discussed it, I believe. He requested this.
Okay, do we need approval from them first?
I don't believe so. We hold the job descriptions. But I can certainly find out from him if you would like to table it. I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, just the status part is where it's different.
I don't have any issues with it if the board wants to move forward. And
I mean, worst case, they come back and say, don't do that, and we revert back to what we had. So, I mean, it's not really gonna affect anything.
Yeah.
I know the conservation has discussed it, I don't recall that being discussed at the
I don't either.
conservation team.
No, I do not.
So regardless, either we do it first, they do it first, I don't have any issues with that. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion for Jana on that?
No. I mean, yeah, I do have one question. I mean, we're looking at other roles countywide for situations like this, right?
Mm-hmm. I think there's still a few others that we could potentially move on and make some changes from non-exempt to exempt.
That's my only question.
That was the question.
Well, I was just
It's gonna leave me hanging, man. It's all good.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Next up, public comment. The board will now allow up to 30 minutes for comments from the public. The board will call speakers to the podium in the order in which they have signed up on the form provided. Each speaker is limited to no more than 2 minutes for speaking. Must speak from the podium. Must first state his or her name and address the board for the record. Comments should be directed to the board as a whole and should refrain from personal attacks or from addressing individual employees or citizens. Comments should also be limited to one topic. Detailed information about the public comment policy is available upon request. Do we have anybody sign up, Mr. Hauser?
John Anderson from Oakland.
All right.
We put her right in the middle, right up front,
I
didn't
know,
ya?
right up.